Hi there, my name is Toby, and on this video I'm talking about training the knees. Now if you have bad knees or knee problems, this is a very important video to watch, and if you go to my homepage you can see all the different playlists that I've organized, and I talk about the body dynamics, body posture, and how this connects to your energy, your chi. And of course being efficient means you save energy. You don't waste energy, and that saving of energy comes from using your body in a better way. So this is not so much about what you do whatever you like, but you've got to try and find a better way of doing it. So if you want to join in, I've just started there by standing up nice and straight and twisting left and right. But if you've got bad knees, you don't want to twist too much. You've got to avoid twisting the knees. So try this little loosening up exercise. I'm gently swinging backwards and forwards, but levering from the hips. I'm trying not to bounce the knees. The movement comes from the hips and the ankles. And I'm trying to keep a nice neutral spine and relax the arms, and very gently levering forward and back just to create this swing. You will get the blood moving and loosen up the legs, and just we want to get the blood flow to the knees, particularly if you've got bad knees, but you've got to teach yourself how to use the knees. So look here, the knees have always got to point in the direction of the toes. If my toes are in and I bend my knees out, I'm twisting. Or here, if my toes are out and I bend my knees in, again I'm twisting the knee joint. I've got to always keep it straight, so the toes point in one direction and the knee, look, always goes over the toes. So whichever way I point my toes, that is the only way I can bend the knee. So you've got to become very aware of this. You can move your leg in any direction, but you always move the toes, and then the knee bends over the toes. You have to practice this and be very, very careful. See, the knees and the elbows only bend in one way. All the rotation has got to come in the hips and the ankles, and you've got to teach this to yourself. It's the same for the arms. So now if you're going up and down, again, see, the toes point forward, the knees go over the toes, but now you've got to lever at the hips, arching slightly back, project the hips backwards to go down further, keep the belly pulled in. Now you can bend the knees a little bit more, but be careful of your knees. Feel the pressure in the knees, and then you take the pressure off the knees by bending the hip. Bend the knees a little bit, then project the hips a little bit. And now, from this position, it's like a skiing position, of just holding the arms up. But you've got to be aware, you're using the glutes. You squeeze the glutes to rise up. So you're not using the thighs, you're not using the knees, you're using the hips and the glutes. And you have to teach yourself this very slowly, very carefully. Be aware of the pain in your knees. No pain in the knees, no pressure in the knees. The moment you feel pressure in the knees, you've got to stop and take it into the hips. Project the hips more. Stick your bottom out more. Lever forward more. Now if you have your legs apart, a wider stance, you see your hips rotate out, your toes point out, and only now you bend your knees in the direction of the toes. So now I'm shifting my weight side to side in a bigger structure, a stronger position, but I've got to feel the knees very carefully. Knees always points over the toe, and I use the hip to take the pressure off the knee. I'm levering at the hip, levering at the ankle, but taking all the pressure off the knee. It's a tricky thing to do. You'll feel it. You feel the knee. The moment you feel, the knee's working, you've got to stop, project the hip a little bit more, lever forward a little bit more. Now here's the alignment. The knee only bends, and the heel has got to come up to the sit bone. So I'm lifting the leg up and pulling my heel to the sit bone. So I'm bending the knee all the way, and again, if you've got bad knees, be careful. Only go as much as you feel, but this bend must be exactly right. I'm not pulling my heel outside the hip. I'm not pulling my heel inside the hip. I'm only pulling the heel directly onto the sit bone, exactly in line with my buttocks. And this is how you can only bend the knee. It's always got to go to that position. If it goes outside or inside, you're twisting the knee too much. And now do it by pulling up in front. So I pull the knee up in front, but again, so the knee comes to the chest, but the heel must go to the sit bone. So I'm collapsing the knee, stretching it to its collapsed position all the way, but very careful to collapse it correctly. No twist in the knee at all. And this is what you've got to teach yourself. The knees and the elbows do not twist. They've got to be strong. You strengthen them. You strengthen them through isometric training, which we're coming to. But all the twist in the joints comes from the hips, the ankles, or the shoulders and the wrist. Knees and elbows stay straight. the rotation in the hips and the shoulders. So here for the full squat now, you're collapsing the leg all the way down. Your knees go slightly out so you can squat, which means your toes go slightly out, and the heels go all the way to the sit bone. And then to come up, you fall forward, lever from your hips first, then squeeze the glutes to push yourself forward. You've got to teach yourself to use only the hips and the ankles. You're also pushing the toes into the ground. So now we do the ankles. You see, rise up onto the ball of the foot, but again the knee is still in line with the toes. You feel it based on the rotation of the hip, and stretch up tall. Push your toes into the ground, look out your legs straight, squeeze the glutes so you drive your hips forward, pull in the belly, lift up the shoulders and the rib cage, nice tall structure, and now you can bounce a little bit. And this is the structure you need to walk. See, when you walk, this is again where you damage your knees. You've got to be very careful. You point your toes in the exact direction that you're going to bend your knee. If you're slightly out, you can be slightly out, but then your knee bends slightly out. It depends on the width of your hips and the mobility of your hips. If your hips are exactly forward, then you point your toes exactly forward. And now more advanced as I'm walking on the ball of the foot. I don't impact my heel onto the ground, because every time I impact my heel, that will shock the knee. So we're trying to reduce the shock impact on the knee and take the cushion into the ankle and also the hip. You see, I've got a leverage in the hips. The hips are also slightly bent. I feel a bounce in the hips. So there's a bounce in the ankles. I'm landing on the ball of the foot, and a bounce in the hips, but no pressure on the knee. And I try and keep a nice tall spine. You see, the sacrum is still above the heels, and the shoulders are above the hips, and the head also sits nicely on the top of the shoulders. So nice tall upward stance, keep the belly pulled in, and a nice arch in the spine, a gentle arch backwards in the spine, and a tall position you walk along. And now also massage the knees. So again, I lever forward. You could have straight knees, push them back, but in line with the toes, and to do circles, rub the knees and rub around the knee, the kneecap. So I keep the fluid moving in the knee. Always massage and move the fluid in the knee, and also the back of the knee. See, fingers go to the back of the knee. The two tendons on the back of the knee that you also want to work and strengthen. So rub and warm up the knees, keep them warm, and then again bend. And when you bend, you remember, take it from the hips. Rise up and down from the hips. Now we're going to do isometric training. So on one leg, and you can lean against the wall, don't struggle, lean. This is not about balancing, it's about the leg. And I bend and straighten the leg under isometric tension, flexing the toes back, pull the heel to the sit bone, but I resist it. I fight against it, and then I try and straighten the leg, but I resist it. I fight against straightening the leg. So I'm holding continuous isometric tension in the knee joint and bending and straightening the knee joint. So this is how I can carefully strengthen up the tendons. The two tendons at the back of the knee and all the tendons and ligaments around the kneecap, and this will work the fluid in the knee. We want that fluid in the knee to keep changing. So now when we've done this workout, we can relax again to this gentle swing, and I call this cross-country skiing. You imagine you're cross-country skiing, and you can bend a little bit more now because you've worked the knees, but very carefully. See, the bounce comes from the hips and the glutes. I squeeze the glutes to rise up, and also the ankles. Although my heels are down, I'm really towards the ball of the foot. I'm feeling the stretch in the ankles, and the knees go over the toes with no pressure on the knees. So remember that. This is the most important thing to remember. No pressure, no work on the knees. The work is done by the hips and the glutes. It's not so much the thighs. And the bounce is in the ankles. Don't keep banging your heel on the floor. Get the alignment right and bounce from the ankles. And just on an aside, you've got to do this right. I know of several examples where people have ruined their knees just by the wrong alignment. They're perfectly healthy, but they wore the wrong shoes, they ran in the wrong way, or even just walked about with the wrong alignment, and you gradually ruin your knee. So even if you're fit and healthy, you must learn how to do this. This is the most efficient way of using your legs. And if you've got knee problems, I've had very bad knee problems as a young child, very bad knees. And even when I studied Kung Fu, my knees got worse, but I fixed my knees by working out this alignment. And now my knees are fine, and they will just get stronger. So this is how you fix your knees forevermore. You've got to teach yourself how to use them properly. Okay, I hope this made sense. Please do leave any questions or comments below, and I look forward to seeing you again in one of these other videos.